Good morning. Well, obviously, watching the Rams is sort of really good football team. Just impressed with so many things that they do. It's easy to see why they're here. Very well coached. Very I would say offensively they're creative, but they're very fundamentally sound and they execute extremely well. Least penalties in the league offensively. They don't make many mistakes. They really do a great job of attacking defenses. Defensively, a lot of outstanding players. They got some good players at every level of the defense. Wade does a tremendous job with his scheme and the experience that he has. They turn the ball over very well with their fumbles and interceptions. They're very in tune to getting the ball off the offense in a number of different ways. And really, every kicking play is an explosive play potentially for the Rams. Kickers have big legs. Obviously, Zerline's field goals, difference in the championship game. Hecker's a tremendous player, great athlete. Is a weapon. They block kicks, they return kicks, and they have a fast coverage team that can change field position. Offensively, there's a lot of backed up situations based on their kicking game where they put you on a long field. So really just across the board, a healthy team that's been, especially offensively, started the same line all year, same thing as last year. Had a lot of continuity in what they do and with the guys that are doing it. Very consistent team that kind of, I think everybody looked at them at the beginning of the year and weren't surprised that they're where they are, and nor should they be. They do a really good job.
Well, how unique is Johnny Hecker just with everything the Rams have to do?
Yeah, again, he's a weapon on the field. Can change field position, and he's a good situational punter, and obviously he's very athletic, and you have to respect his ability to handle the ball. And like the main thing when you send your punt return team out there is you want to make sure you get the ball at the end of the play, and that's not always that difficult, but with these guys it's pretty challenging. So yeah, but they're, as I said, they're all weapons. Zerline's a weapon, Hecker's a weapon. They do a good job in the return game. So,
Bill, after some of the games we've seen on videotape inside the locker room and even at midfield, guys hugging each other, telling each other they love each other. You and Tom did that to each other. Total respect for it. Where do those bonds get forged? And how important do you think it is to have that connection and trust moving forward and trying to keep it going?
I think when you go through a whole year with other people trying to experience the same thing, which we're all trying to win games and contribute and help the team, then you form a bond with individuals and collectively as a group. So we achieved a very successful moment the other night. I think everybody felt it.
Bill, was it a credit to their offensive line that Gurley was hurt late in the year? They bring in Anderson, who runs just as well. How good is this offensive line of the Rams?
Well, I think, let's say just overall, they collectively as a group, because everything is so integrated with them. Again, you can't make yards with one guy blocking. You need them all to block. You need them all to, you need the backs to read the blocks properly. You need the line to sell the play action, to create the opportunities in the play action game. I would just say overall they execute extremely well as a unit on a very, very consistent basis. And they do a lot of things to give the defense problems, misdirection, and things that complementary plays. So they all kind of look the same, but it could be one of two or three things. And so just say the overall level of execution. They have a good offensive line. They bend together. They don't make many mistakes. But nobody makes many mistakes on this offense. They execute extremely well, and that's a credit to the players and certainly the coaching staff.
So what attributes do you think are most important in a defensive play caller? Obviously that was a transition you guys made well from last season to this season. So are there certain qualities that you value that most in that role?
mean, look, play calling's it's a difficult job. You only have a couple seconds to really make decisions. You have to get it in, and the players have to get it, and they have to execute it. There's a lot of preparation that goes into play calling. But then there's certainly a feel and let's say, an evolution of every game that is different from every other game. So it's a combination of all those things.
How much does your offense having success late in games have to do with how well conditioned your offensive linemen are? And in general, how has the conditioning for that position changed since the time you came to the game?
Yeah, well, there's a lot of different ways to do it. So I can't really speak to how everybody else does it, but everybody has the same opportunity and have to deal with the same 60-minute game. So, but I think just in general, what we try to do is I work very closely with Moses and his staff and the assistant coaches to try to prepare our practices, plan our practices, and prepare our team for the physical exertion that what the average is, what we have to expect, and then in some cases we have to be ready to go beyond that on individually or collectively as a unit. If we're playing a lot on one side of the ball or the other, or an individual load might change. So we kind of try to monitor those things. I really lean heavily on Moses and his staff on that part of it, on the training part of it, the conditioning, the volume that we do, the intensity that we do, and he's very good at that, and so I really rely on him there. But it's every position. But I think our offensive line is overall pretty athletic group. They work hard, they train hard, they all run well. And so we do conditioning drills. I would say it's always it's good, but it's always a little bit surprising to me how well they run as a group relative to other groups. I mean, they're not that far behind other players, in some cases skilled players that are you think of as faster, but actually those guys they run pretty well.
Bill, in the playoffs, your pass protection has been pretty effective against two pair of elite edge rushers, Bosa and Ingram, and then Ford in Houston. What adjustments did you make for them, and how do you adjust that to the Rams, where so much of their pressure comes from the middle?
Right. Well, again, every game's different. Every rusher is different, so the matchups are all different. And we'll see how it goes this week. But certainly, Rams have a very talented group. And I would say, so have the other teams, not just those two guys, but they've had other guys as well. And you're also challenged at times by the scheme, where the games they run, or the blitzes and the matchups they create, and so forth. So. Again, it's not always cookie cutter, just 5-on-4 and where everybody is. There's some of that, but then there's a lot of other variations that come in that you have to be ready to deal with schematically. So Coach Sarnecchia and certainly Coach McDaniels do a great job of preparing our players for the situations that we'll face, and sometimes we get new things in the game that we have to adjust to. But we have a pretty experienced group there. Those guys have played a lot of football together, and a lot of times they see things and anticipate things based on their experience, and that's certainly helpful.
Bill, if it's fair to say their offensive system is a branch off of kind of the Shanahan tree, if you will, and maybe it's not, what has Sean done fundamentally to make it his own? What kind of twists are different from other offenses that fall in that same group?
He's got 4 or 5 things that are, I would say, pretty specific to their offense, the Rams' offense, that I won't say we've never seen them before, but I think the way they do them, they blend well together. They sort of merge into each other and create problems for the defense. So those are the things that I think are the toughest for the defense. They do a lot of things out of one personnel group, and that's an issue. So you kind of have to deal with everything from everything. But Sean's done a really good job of doing what they do, but they blend it together in a way that it's different. It's the same, but it's different, and it's hard for the defense to really differentiate or get in the right spot easily. You have to really work at it, and they don't make it easy for you.
Are there tighter splits among those 4 or 5?
Oh, that's definitely that's a key component of the offense. Yeah, the spacing is absolutely that's say one of the one of the trademarks of what they do, and the misdirection that so they're in there close. So there's a lot of misdirection that comes with it. So you definitely have to deal with those. Yeah, no question. But again, it's not all. It's part of what they do, and it's a significant part of what they do. But there's a lot of other things too. So it all kind of blends together nicely.
Bill, what has Patrick Chung's leadership meant to the Patriots this year? You drafted him back in 2009, and this is his first year being a captain. How has he grown on and off the field?
Well, we have a lot of players on our team, and Pat's certainly in that group that give us great leadership that aren't necessarily captains. And Pat's done that for years. This year he was selected as a captain, and very deservedly. He's done a great job. But he's given us great leadership year in and year out for a number of years. So, his experience, his confidence, certainly his versatility. He works with everybody. So he works with the corners, the safeties, the linebackers. Even gets involved with the defensive linemen because of his proximity to the line of scrimmage on a lot of plays. He's involved in the kicking game really, he's played in every phase of the kicking game for us, punt return, kickoff return. He's a very dependable player, so works hard in practice, runs scout team plays, things like that. He's in tremendous condition. He can go all day, loves to play football. I mean, he's a great influence and role model for all of us, for everybody on the team, just his passion for football. But he's very competitive, and I think his unselfishness and his effort gives him the opportunity to have great leadership because everybody respects that, and they know he's going to do what's best for the team. He's going to give us his best in every situation, and he has for a number of years. It's very durable, dependable, and he's tough.
Do you think last year's Super Bowl loss made the Patriots extra hungry to win this year?
Well, I think, right now, this football team is this football team. It's not any other one. And we're going to do the best we can to perform as well as we can against the Rams. And that's going to be a huge challenge, but it's really just about us right now. There's nothing in the past that does or doesn't help us. So we're going to bond together and coach and play as well as we can next Sunday night.
The Aqib Talib, when you turn on the tape, how much is it similar to what you saw when he was here?
Pretty similar.
What has he brought the Rams defense from what you've seen in terms of his play?
But he's a very talented player. Peter's on the other side. I mean, they have two great corners. They can match up really against any receiver. Big, fast, quick, savvy, and those guys can cover anybody. They're both very good with their ball skills. As we know, Talib's got great hands, makes some tough catches. If you make a mistake around him, it's not an incompletion. It could be going the other way. So he's a very instinctive guy, as is Peters. And they recognize routes, combinations. They have a real good feel for the pass rush. They know when the quarterbacks can't hold the ball, and they're on their guys. So they're two great corners, and again, guys that they just don't cover their guy. I mean, you got to worry about them. Not just intercepting the ball, you got to worry about him intercepting a run back for a touchdown too.
Bill, you always submit to nerves, and not just for the postseason, but for any game that matters. Do those nerves change at all for the Super Bowl, or so?
Yeah, same answer as last week.
You guys have obviously competed against Wade Phillips for a number of years. I know the personnel is different, but when it comes to this year's defense for him, what are some of the things that they've done that are consistent with what you've seen over the years from Wade?
Well, the scheme's the same. I think he's changed the scheme. Wade does a great job of utilizing his personnel and putting his players in position to be productive and make plays. So when he had Von Miller, he did things. He didn't change what he did. He just the volume and the percentages shifted to accentuate a player like that, or Aaron Donald, or whoever it happens to be. So certainly there's an element of game planning, and how he plays one team or another team varies, but it's within the system that he has. I mean, I don't think he's out there drawing up a lot of new defenses. I think he has a menu, and he selects the ones that fit best against his opponent and the situations, as the situations come up in that game. Now, this year they've definitely gone from, a higher percentage of man coverage to a higher percentage of zone coverage here in the second half of the season. But that's been very effective for them. Obviously been productive and a good adjustment. But I'm sure they're capable because of I know what they have in their system. They're very capable of doing that or doing something that's also in their system, whether that's, split safety coverages or their quarter half, or man coverage. I mean, they can, easily get to any of those things depending on how they want to play it.
Bill, in the last couple of years, your defense has kind of trended more towards man coverage, whereas maybe 5-10 years ago might have trended the other direction. Is it mostly based on your own personnel, or I guess more the opponents that you're going up against in a given year, or both?
Yeah, I mean, each game's different, so how we approach each game is based on what we think's best for that week. I don't think we necessarily go into the season saying this is what we're going to be or what we're not going to be. I mean, again, we have a system has some breadth to it. So, I mean, we know we're going to have to play man. We know we're going to have to play zone. We know we're going to have to blitz. We know we're going to have to, deal with outside runs, inside gap schemes, outside zone scheme, all those things. So, depending on what they do and how we feel like we match up with that particular team, would have a lot to do with how that particular game goes.
Last question. Playing mostly split safety or post safety coverages on defense?
Oh, they're heavy post safety, but they do enough split safety that if you miss it, then I mean they're going to nail you, and they do a good job of that, especially with Talib and Peters out there. If you make a mistake on that, it's going the other way. So there's plenty of variety in what they do. I'm not saying they do the same thing all the time. I would just say that Wade's system is his system. And then within that system, there's plenty of variety. So they can get to what they need to get to. Again, I don't think they're going to, we're going to see like 3 new fronts and 3 new coverages in this game that he hasn't run in the last 30 years. I mean, I just don't think that's going to happen, but if it does, we'll adjust to it. But they do what they do in their system. They do it well. They have a lot of confidence in it, which they should. He's been successful everywhere he's been. He's been doing it for 30 years. In multiple organizations with multiple groups of players against every kind of offense he could see. So, yeah, I remember dealing with him when I was in Cleveland. It's basically, and to his credit, there's not many of us that have a system that can last that long. And, I've certainly changed a lot in the last 30 years, schematically. Wade really hasn't. I mean, he really hasn't. So, you got to give him credit for that. That system's lasted. I mean, really, this is part of his dad's system that he's developed and moved, adapted and developed there. And I mean, I have a ton of respect for what he's done and how he's done it over, every different kind of offense you can see, multiple tight ends, run and shoot, 10 personnel, 11 personnel, 12 personnel, 21, 22. He's been able to do the same thing. Not the same thing, but his system has been able to handle all that, and I think that's a real credit to what he put together 30 years ago.
Thanks, everyone.
All right, thanks.